performance is good. So I've been focused. There hasn't been a lot of I show off a lot in the Discord channel that we have, and if you're not in the Discord, hit me up and we'll get you added. But I post a lot. I used to post a lot in there, and I've been really quiet for the last little while because there hasn't been a lot of functional stuff being done. It's been a lot more performance stuff just to get the game ready for launch on the Switch. Because this game ran great on the PC, and then as soon as I ran on the Switch, it is garbage.
Damn.
Yeah, it's tough. But it's finally getting to it's finally in a state now where it's pretty good. I'm just doing final run through the whole game just to make sure there's no major issues. But yeah, so I've been working. As I've been playing this, I've been doing a little bit of updates to some of my cutscenes and stuff as I've been adjusting things. You'll see some gameplay in just a moment here. But the general vibe of it is you can draft different units into your army. Each class has its own kind of role and unique abilities and stuff. So unlike a game like Fire Emblem where you'll have focus on leveling up and getting stats and using different weapons and stuff, it's not so much like that. It's more focused on tactics and abilities and finding the right synergies between your unit's abilities and stuff in order to take advantage of a fight. So different characters will have different kits that are appropriate for certain types of play styles and stuff. So for example, the Marauder here is your classic berserker. When he loses health, he can potentially get much more powerful. So he gets higher strength but less counterattack power as a free optional action that he can do based on how much health he's missing. And then if he kills a unit, he can recover half of his missing health. So he's kind of like a tank that kind of rides the wave of how much health you have available to you. Here you can in the pregame you can deploy your units in different positions based on where you want them to start. And then when you get into it, there might be a cutscene just to set the tone for the mission. But yeah, this guy here, Raphael, he's a Lancer unit. He's like a Dragoon in Final Fantasy kind of. So he can jump and attack enemies from a long distance. This character is a rogue. She's got a unique kind of dynamic where she can only defend in melee range, but she can attack at long range as an option. She can also mug and steal items from enemy characters if she breaks through their armor. So one of the main mechanics in this game is health management. So here you'll see there's actually 2 health bars for every character. There's a blue one and a red one. The blue one is an armor system, so armor is fairly easily recoverable. Every single unit in the game has a guard action that will recover 3 armor, and then also give them a defensive buff. And then some characters don't have it, like the Marauder. He's entirely focused on HP. HP is a lot harder to recover. It's a different resource. There's no easy way to refill it unless your character is built around it, like the Marauder. Otherwise, the only way to heal that stuff is through using recovery items and things like that you have to find on the map. The idea of this game is to be very dynamic, so it kind of responds to you kind of respond to the situation. Like I said, there's no grinding or leveling up necessarily, where you're becoming so much more powerful you can just kill everything in one hit. It's not that kind of game. It's very much focused on using the right tools for the situation. Another thing that sets this game apart from other tactics-style games is kind of one unit, one action per turn kind of thing. So in games some games have an initiative system, some games have I move all of my units in my army and then you move all of your units in your army. This game is something in between where every single army gets a turn, one at a time, until someone runs out of stuff, and then we go through the cycle until everybody has acted. And then we'll refresh everybody and start a new round. So this is some footage from early to mid campaign. So there's different features that are introduced over the course of the time. Some of this stuff is not visible here. There's a commander system where one unit in your army can be a commander, and they get a unique ability and a new resource pool, kind of like a mana bar, where they get to fill up and have a special action. And it's a unique skill depending on which character class is a commander for that mission. In this case, I don't want to. This game can get fairly complex with the levels of systems on top of systems. So this mechanic doesn't really get introduced until about halfway through the game. So this is just before the halfway point. So you're not going to see that here. But yeah, originally this game was designed to be a PvP focused game where it was meant to be balanced in a way that part of the reason one character moves at a time is because like I would move my character once, and then you get a chance to move your guy before I just like completely delete your army before you get a turn, kind of thing. And a lot of the mechanics are very like swingy in terms of like recovering health or like finding like the right response to an enemy coming up in your face. A classic mistake is to send one unit off on their own into a crowd and then they just get mobbed and destroyed. So you gotta kind of like learn to balance. Your positioning is incredibly important in this kind of game. There's also a lot of emphasis on the terrain. So just about every little thing that's on the terrain has like some different effect and stuff. And on the top right, you can kind of see as I hover over certain types of terrain, you'll see like different crap appear in the corner. That kind of gives you like context about like what's going on with that tile. So there will be some tiles that will provide a bonus. Some of them will like debuff your character. Some of them are interactable. So there might be these things with little boots and the plus on like the ground and stuff like that. Those are booster tiles. So you actually have the ability, some characters have abilities that are free actions that won't end your turn, and you can chain them infinitely until you end up using an action that will end your turn. One of the free actions you can get from staying on one of those tiles is a boost, so you basically get a free extra move. So you can find, if you navigate properly, you can do some really crazy combos where you might have an item in your inventory, there's a boots item that lets you get a short extra boost for free. You could run to a booster tile, dash off of it, use that item to get a little bit of extra distance to get onto another one, and then basically run all the way across a map in a single turn and do some like really crazy stuff. Different classes also have like their own like unique like mobility behaviors and things like that. Some characters are ranged, some characters are melee only, some have a mix. Each character has its own kind of like theme. So the sorceress, this character here, she is a very like status effect heavy character. One of her iconic abilities is actually the ability to copy any debuff abilities that are debuff statuses on a unit and copy them to another unit. So if you can stack a lot of like negative effects on someone, she can like absolutely like blow up like an enemy team. Yeah, and so a lot of the game is about finding the synergies between your units and finding like the situations to set up to get like that big combo off kind of thing. But meanwhile, like the situation is changing every turn because you don't know that you're always going to have everything in the right place before something moves out of the way, and then your whole plan is kind of destroyed. So you got to kind of like adapt on the fly. But that's why the numbers are kind of are intentionally pretty small. We're not dealing with numbers in like the hundreds and stuff like that. Everything should be countable and like you can do the math in your head. Now there is a like combat preview kind of estimate thing that tells you like how much damage you're likely to do based on your stats and based on their stats. So you don't have to do too much math in your head. Earlier on, this like was prototyped as like a board game, so that kind of stuff like you could do in your head or you'd have to do on paper. But we don't have to do that. We live in the future. So yeah, I rambled on for a bit. If anyone has any questions or anything, feel free to chip in.
This looks cool.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm hoping to release sometime towards the end of this year. Like I said, I'm working on the Switch board at the moment. I want to try to get that ready so I can ideally do Steam and Switch at the same time. Yes, I see now I've prompted a question.
Mm-hmm. Will you have Switch 2 mouse support?
Probably not. I don't have a dev kit. So, but I want to do that.
Really?
I want to do that. Someday.
That's cool.
I would love to do that.
So I know you started on PC before porting it down to Switch. But can you explain to us some of the foremost challenges you had getting this on Switch?
So I'm developing this game in a custom engine called FNA, or the framework is called FNA. It's a C# based game framework, not really an engine. So all this stuff is like written in like C# code and an IDE the same way you would for like an enterprise software app kind of thing. So this gives you like a render loop. It gives you access to like controller APIs and stuff like that, and kind of abstracts a lot of the edges of the system out from you. But it's not like you're not dragging an item into a scene and getting like a lot of the stuff that an engine would provide you. So one of the biggest problems when porting to the Switch is originally this game was built with monogame, which is a lot like FNA, but has like different support for Switch. I'm not going to get too much into details about that because I can't really talk too much about it, but getting things just to get compiled and running on that piece of hardware is tough. when you don't have the support of something like Unity or Godot, where they have like that stuff kind of like figured out for you. So there's a lot of like manual stuff. In with FNA, they are a little more ahead of like monogame at the moment, where you can use some of the newer features of C#, including ahead of time compilation, which lets you compile to like bytecode for like the hardware, which gives you monogame still uses this thing called brute, which is like an interpreter from like C# code to like C++ code, which has like a bit of overhead to it for performance. So performance has been like the biggest problem with the Switch, other than just getting that initial setup, because it's like a really complicated series of things you have to install. You have to do a lot of stuff by yourself. The FNA team is very like read the manual kind of guys. So one of the things that I have been working on recently that I had to do, which has been the biggest improvement that has made doing the Switch stuff like more viable, is getting performance under control. So one of the things that I had to do is I actually had to rewrite the particle system that I was relying on for. There's a library called Monogame Extended, which is really cool. It gives you access to a lot of like nice additional features that are not part of the core framework in Monogame, including drawing particles. So you can like spawn like a whole bunch of like little effects and stuff, and you can apply like gravity and all this stuff to it. Turns out when I was testing, this is on PC. I don't profile on Switch, so this is fun to show. But about a third of every frame was just being spent rendering particles, which is rough. So I actually ended up rewriting the entire particle system in my own custom solution, and I went from taking about 860 milliseconds, which is like almost a second, to draw. I don't think that's drawing a single frame. It's like an average of like how long it takes to do stuff, down to 13 milliseconds. So that's like a pretty significant performance improvement. The downside is I had to write it, and I had to spend like an entire week basically like rewriting that thing. But I think the dividends are there to make it worth it. So.
And you're aiming for, on Switch, you're aiming for 30 or 60 FPS?
I'm pushing for 60 where I can.
Okay.
Definitely trying to get 60. I would feel embarrassed to release a pixel art game at 30 FPS on this, even on the Switch. But yeah, that's the focus at the moment.
Okay.
To be fair, I think you could probably get away with 30 FPS. Since I
mean, it's a turn-based game, so like you could. But I want the effects and everything. I want it to feel smooth.
Yeah, that's Fire Emblem had some pretty high frame rate. So.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that makes sense as well.
Yeah.
So can you still? I don't know if you love to comment on this kind of thing, but can you still release just on Switch 1 and you don't have to do Switch 2? Is that still a thing?
Yeah, you can do that. The Switch 2 is backwards compatible, so
Yeah.
if you release on Switch 1, you should be able to run on Switch.
You don't have a dev
There's some
kit.
edge cases for that, but
You don't have dev kit for Switch 2, but you can use the Switch 1 dev kit to work on a game that's compatible.
I can
with Switch 2.
publish a game on Switch 1
Yeah.
with my Switch 1 dev kit, and then Switch 2 will just work.
Yeah.
But when it comes to mouse control support,
Yeah, anything you
I would need
yeah.
a Switch 2 dev kit in order to be able to actually.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Can you
Switch.
still market it for being on Switch 2 if you just
I'm not sure.
Switch 1?
I would assume not, because it's not like a Switch 2 like executable kind of thing.
No,
Kind of a
no.
weird thing.
Yeah, it would. Yeah. But no, Switch 2 can virtually all Switch 1 games can play on Switch 2. I know there were a few edge cases where.
There are some edge cases, and there actually are some edge cases with FNA that may or may not
Yeah.
like affect that. So I'm not 100%
But I'm
sure.
thinking I was thinking a lot of like, do you have to do testing on Switch 2 to be sure it's compatible or something?
You would not have to. I don't think you'd have to. I don't know,
Yeah. Okay.
and I don't know if I'm allowed to say if I did.
Yeah, exactly. You can't say those.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Cool.
Are you doing the October Next Fest?
That's the plan right now. I've been planning to go into every Next Fest for the past like 5 Next Fests.
Maybe.
But you can only do it once, and then once you have like a release, you can't do it anymore. So I continue to delay the game until it's like close to done. And one of the things I've been the most lazy about is getting the marketing stuff going, because I don't like that. But that's also a reason why I'm working on the Switch at the moment, is because you can get a big bump from the platforms.
I heard that you want to actually stagger the platform releases so that you're not like doing it all at once.
Yeah, that's kind of true. But also, like, I have 2 platforms. Like, I don't right, as of right now, I don't plan on going like on Xbox or PlayStation or anything. And this game is this game is a Nintendo game. It's in its soul. So
Yeah.
I want it to be on Nintendo. So yeah, I'm gonna try my best to get a release on both. We'll see if I regret that in the future, but that's.
So I just mean like at the same time, you don't have to, I wouldn't say to worry about that at the same time, but.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's nice to get a simultaneous launch. You get like more coverage and stuff. And that initial release where you get most of your people who buy your game. Sometimes like that's the better way to go.
I feel like
I'm
it's
not
a
an
risk
expert on
either
that.
way.
I'll be finding that out as I do. What's that?
I said I feel like it's a risk either way, because like if you release on both, you might get more attention drawn at once, and then that gets more attention.
Yeah.
But if you do it staggered, you have 2 shots at getting that attention, I guess. So it's
Yeah, it's
different
tough.
risk rewards.
It's tough. Yeah, I'm not an expert on that.
Me either. It sucks.
But yeah. Yeah. Cool. And if anyone wants to help me playtest this thing, hit me up. I'm Trevor Talberon on the Discord. If you want to try this out, let me know. I'm always looking for confirmation that I didn't completely ruin this. So yeah, thank you.